I'm excited about the emphasis on sustainability in our industry. Right now, that is it. We want to make sure we are positioned to be sustainable as it relates to regulatory issues, workforce, public perception. That's the goal.
This is the PMP Industry Insider Podcast.
Hi everyone, welcome out to another episode of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast, where we take a look at what is changing in the pest and lawn industries, and we take you to the front lines of those that are driving those changes. I'm Donnie Shelton, owner of Triangle Home Services, which owns Triangle Pest as well as Triangle Lawn. And with me is the infamous Mr. Dan Gordon. Dan, would you like to say good morning, introduce our guest? And by the way, this is not most time I say special guest. This is actually a special guest. This is not just us, so normally that's it. But also introduce our sponsors and our topic. I think that'd be
sure. Good. I bet if I go in, out of order. So, morning, Dan Gordon, PCO Bookkeepers and M&A Specialists. We do accounting and brokerage work in the pest control industry as well as the lawn. And before we dive into today's episode, let's give a shout out to our sponsors, Coalmarch by WorkWave. So if you need marketing services, not just digital, but marketing specifically designed for pest and lawn care company, you would visit Coalmarch, coalmarch.com. And on the insurance side, if you're interested in pest control specific insurance, PestSure, Todd Burke is over there, and he takes care of all of our listeners who call, and so it's pestsure.com. And if you're interested, so this is kind of interesting. I guess we started it probably a year ago, Donnie, or these peer groups, and now we've got a lot of people in these peer groups, over 50 people. And so if you're interested in joining or hearing about them, go to the website pmpindustryinsider.com/peer groups, or can you hear my dog in the background? So,
not really.
All right.
Not really.
Well, okay. So anyway, or you can go back to episode 136 and listen to David Billingsley. David is our facilitator. He does a great job. So today, this is a treat, especially being a few weeks out from PestWorld. We're sitting down for an interview with the new NPMA president, that is Faye Golden. And Faye is Director of Government Affairs at Cooks in Decatur, Alabama, and the new president of NPMA. Faye comes from the regulatory side of the industry. She was the first female inspector to work for the Alabama Department of Agriculture and Industries Pesticide Management Section. She also was elected the first person from the industry to serve as president of the American Association of Pesticide Safety Educators. That's a mouthful. And she also has made history as the first Black woman to be elected as president of NPMA, and we couldn't be more proud. Welcome, Faye.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Donnie. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah. Glad that you're here. Glad you're here. Well, Faye, you obviously, from listening to your bio, you've had quite a unique career. I think it'd be good for our listeners. Just can you share with us how you first got started in the industry? It sounds like you were an inspector, and then kind of maybe there's more there to the story, and then just kind of the journey that got you to where now you're the president of the National Pest Management Association.
Absolutely, Donnie. Thank you so much. It has been a journey. So shortly after college, I was filling out applications, and I knew I wanted to do something in agriculture or environmental sciences, because that was what my degree is in. And so I applied for a position there with the Alabama Department of Agriculture, went in, had an interview, and moved to South Alabama, away from my family, moved to South Alabama and became an inspector for nursery stock. So there are tons of regulations for plant shipments coming in and out of the state as it relates to the imported red fire ant. And so that was my responsibility, to make sure that we didn't have any pests going out to spread red imported fire ants to other states, and also to inspect those products coming in. But another part of that job was also making sure that those that were employed by those nurseries, that they had protections and they were aware of pesticide safety information and how to locate that information. So I started off as an inspector. It was a fabulous job. If you love being outside, an inspector is the way to go, and just meeting a ton of people and some great nurserymen along the way. But as the years progressed, a position opened back in Montgomery that's a little bit closer to my hometown of Wetumpka, Alabama. So I applied for that position and became a biologist for the Department of Agriculture. And I just continually worked my way up to program director. And I know a lot of people hear about certification and training right now. So that was my main focus, was making sure that we had great study information, our exams were current, and we were listening to what our applicators needed. That was my journey with the Department of Agriculture. So I'm growing, doing great. But then Cooks had this position around 2012, 2015. They advertised a new position for a manager of government affairs. And I was like, that sounds pretty interesting. So I reached out to them, got a little bit of information, and I'm like, this would be a great fit for me. So I started my path with Cooks in 2013, and as soon as I joined Cooks, I already started looking at associations they were involved in, also to represent our industry. So quickly became a member of the Georgia Pest Control Association, the Alabama Pest Control Association, Tennessee, and national. So became a member of the NPMA and joined the Public Policy Committee. And it just took off and flourished from there. After my first PestWorld, I'm like you, I was hooked. So I knew I wanted to be actively involved in this organization, served on several committees, and now I have the honor of serving as NPMA president. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know if you know where Wetumpka, Alabama is. It's a very small rural town in the center of the state. Our population is about 7,200. If you would have ever told me that this would be my journey, I would not believe it. I would not. To represent this industry globally for those that protect public health and the environment, there's just no way I would have believed it.
Say that name one more time. What's the name of that town?
Wetumpka.
Okay.
He's Googling it right now.
No, listen, I actually did pull it up because I'm assuming when you say you were in South Alabama, were you in Mobile? Was that where
in
you
Mobile?
Were? Yeah. Okay. Because
Yep.
I mean, a lot of folks don't know, and I don't want to make this a geography discussion, but Alabama has some beautiful coastline, and Mobile is a beautiful city. Absolutely
it is
beautiful.
Gorgeous. It's
and
so
I
historic.
And I did spend some time in Montgomery, Alabama. Early in my career,
What were you doing in Montgomery?
I was getting my commission as a United States Air Force officer, so that's what I was.
Maxwell and Gunner. Yep.
Yep. I was at Maxwell, so no, I'm familiar, and I also spent some time in Birmingham. So, but I never went through Wetumpka. Is that how you?
Wetumpka.
Wetumpka. Okay.
But if you were in Montgomery, you were about 15 minutes from Wetumpka. It's a little bedroom community.
Wetumpka, yes, Wetumpka.
But we were made famous by HGTV, Hometown Takeover. So I don't know if you have any HGTV watchers out there, but Google us, and we were on Hometown Takeover, and they redid our main street for our businesses. So it was so cool.
Nice, very nice.
So I'm going to go off script just for a second. Difference between working for the government and working for private industry. Any thoughts? By the way, you could skip over, take the fifth, whatever.
No. Honestly, there's a lot in common. I mean, we really have the same goals in mind. We want to make sure our applicators are trained, certified. So the same for government as private industry. However, the big difference is you really have to love being a servant if you're a government employee. So the pay scale is not quite the same for government as private.
However, you get to leave at 5 p.m. exactly, right?
Where is this? Exactly.
Maybe.
No.
Hey, so wanted to ask you. So we were talking about it before we got on, but I mean, Denver was just we really enjoyed PestWorld this year. So, what was your take on the show, and what were you hearing in Denver from attendees and NPMA members? And it was that was your show, and it was awesome.
That's it. It was awesome. And I may be a little biased on it, but to me, that was the best PestWorld ever. We had near record attendance. I want to say 4,100 plus attendees.
Mm-hmm.
The venue, the Gaylord Rockies, was gorgeous.
Yeah.
The backdrop, everything was gorgeous. All of the amenities, and we were right there together. You didn't need to venture out for very much. We had great meeting space. Restaurants were incredible. And just the connections that were made. You could feel the energy when you were there. And I mean, they had all of these little areas where people could meet and talk, but the energy was so incredible. And oh, wow, the exhibit hall. You guys were there because I saw you broadcast. It was incredible in that exhibit hall. We had some new innovations from people that have been exhibiting there to a lot of new groups that were with us. I saw one. It was the Webster, the electronic Webster. That was really cool.
Wait, an electronic Webster? How does that work? What does the electricity do?
So it just spins the head for you. So it was so cool.
The innovations in this industry are amazing, cool. Right?
That was so cool. And then also a lot of massage devices for your technician or members of your team. So it was really cool. But I'm telling you, from that excitement, we are looking forward to PestWorld 2025 in Orlando. So Dominique and the team, they're already looking forward to it. So mark the calendar, October 21st through 24th in Orlando, Florida for PestWorld.
Nobody's allowed to go to Disney. Everybody has to sit in the conference rooms.
Come early. Come early and stay late.
Show floor.
That's right. Exactly right. Exactly right. So I agree. I think PestWorld this year was amazing. It was really great. I like that everyone was together. I think because of that, we saw a lot more folks, and so and the vendors were all there, and just kind of, again, I like the location was centrally located, and that we were all in kind of one place. I'm curious, now that we've got NPMA done, you're the new president. What are some of the main goals or initiatives that you have? Obviously, the term seems long, but it's super short. Years ago, I was president of our little state association. But it goes by fast. So I'm curious, what are some of the main goals or initiatives that you're hoping to get done or focus on during your term?
You're right. It does go by very quickly. You really need to start working on your initiatives while you're president-elect. And for me, it is membership growth. That's it. We are not looking at just, recruitment. So not just simply recruitment, but what is it that the members are needing and wanting? So we're doing a deep analysis of member needs. We're trying to create targeted value propositions for companies of different types and sizes. Also, always listening to what they're saying they really, really need. To me, it may be a great idea, but do you really need this benefit? What's something that would help your company grow? Also, strengthening the engagement with our existing members, with the new ones. It's completely different now. Someone that's been in business 15 years, they're focused on this issue, where someone that's just entering, their target may be a little bit different, but how do we mesh those and get one great or several great products as a benefit for being a member of NPMA? And we just wrapped up our second annual association impact meeting in Arlington, Virginia last week. There were more than 70 attendees from 46 companies, 23 states. We brought these association leaders in to hear, hey, what's some of the things that your members are needing, and also how to increase that engagement at the state level. It was a phenomenal meeting, and still that high energy. You're right after PestWorld, and now you're at another function, but still a lot of discussion and ways to improve and grow NPMA. And one more that I'm excited about, this is our new individual certification program. We're beginning with NPMA Pro Certified in January. So this will be an individual certification that shows, hey, you wanted to invest in that technician that you probably think, hey, he or she does an incredible job and you would like to duplicate that person. This is the program for them. So you're going to invest in them for NPMA Pro Certified. So it's going to be a benchmark of excellence and expertise in our field. So it kicks off in January. So I am super excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And if there's any listeners that are not a member, just to plug the membership drive there, really, this is kind of not a should, this is kind of a must. And the reason I say that is because there's strength in numbers. And I have personally benefited from there being a collective voice. You think about legislation and you think about issues facing our industry. Had we not been very organized, we're very fortunate as an industry. We have a very strong association. You think about things like the Farm Bill and just so many things that have happened, preemption, which it's not completely over the finish line yet, but those types of challenges if we were not united as an association, we just simply would just get, I mean, there's nothing we could do to fight it. There's nothing we could do to represent our industry. And so, that point alone, and then there's, of course, networking, and there's also,
There's
making
also, if you're just starting a business, just the list of things that you get
yeah.
and resources that are available, just to, technical resources, business resources. It's
Yep.
We've been involved with NPMA forever, so
there's a wealth of information out there. I mean, Donnie, you touched on it, the public policy team. EPA just released their final decision for the rodenticide strategy, not the PID, last week. So very different, but that just came out last week. NPMA's policy team was all over it, getting it out to the membership, letting us know, hey, this is what's covered in it. They did take into consideration some of the asks from NPMA, such as carcass removal and the placement of bait stations, but also, hey, we know that now we need to start developing some training for our members on using bulletins live too, and endangered species information. So there is a wealth of information out there. If you want to grow your business, from business innovation, marketing to membership, there is a lot of information and some great people to help you grow in your company.
Yeah.
What were some of the state? You said that a lot of the state folks came with issues that they were worried about. What were some of those issues, and were there common, like, between, I guess, states that kind of border each other versus, people who are far away, Florida versus, Massachusetts or something like that? What?
The big issues were succession planning. My state is a perfect one. Well, mine is a perfect state. During COVID, some of us lost our executive directors. And so now the board is trying to fill that role until we get a new person in place. So do you have people on your bench? If your executive director or your executive secretary stepped away from your state association, who's next in line to take the lead? Is your association in a good place? There was a session on like taxes for your state association. Do you know everything that you should be filing for that association? If you're new, maybe you don't. This was a great session to hear some of the concerns from the leaders. And the main one was, hey, who's on deck to move into this position if I retire or something happens to me? But then also how to make an impact in your association, how to grow it. So we had representatives from the Arizona Pest Management Group. Of course, Georgia was there. Just several associations. It was the Carone sisters, sister and sister-in-law, Andrea Carone and Kristen. They were there. If you manage an association, so it was great hearing from them. Arkansas, Justin McCauley talked a little bit about what's going on in Arkansas, and Erin Richards from Tennessee. She's the new president for the Tennessee Pest Control Association, and they went from an individual managing their group to a marketing group. So it's very different. And we have to change, but sometimes you just have to find the right fit for your organization.
Right. That's good stuff.
I know in North Carolina, we absolutely face this issue. I think it's we used to have NPMA that was helping, run our association. Of course, we've had to transition, but it is absolutely a big concern for us as well. So I'm curious to hear.
I've watched, state associations want to do it on their own, then go to NPMA, then come off, then hire an association manager. I'm curious, and I don't want to put you on the spot. Maybe you can get me. I'd love to see the sheet on taxes and other things, because we actually run, the accounting books for a couple state associations, and just want to make sure that. So maybe I'll shoot you an email afterwards. That's okay. Yeah.
I'll share that. Yeah, I'll get that presentation. That was a great presentation, and share it with you.
Absolutely. So, we always, Donnie and I, we look at things from the best person for the best job, and it seems like you're in that right spot. And you said your goal is to be a great role model and attract women and people of color to the industry. Tell us what that looks like. What you're doing in that regard.
Yeah, it's a tremendous responsibility, but I'm super excited about the possibilities. When I say I'm looking to get more women and people of color engaged in this association, I am. This is not a career path that many women and people of color probably consider. We don't have many people in our families that have probably taken this path. So it is a great responsibility to get the information out there, to share this hidden secret with them. But I'm also proud that I'm part of an organization that has already had this foundation in place to grow our leadership. When we look at the executive leadership program, we already have people that have graduated and now serving on the board, and that develops a high level of leadership skills, getting them ready to serve on our board and lead our organization. Also, our leader launch, which is pretty new. We started that one in 2013, and that one builds emerging leaders and gives them the core foundational information to lead the association. But what I'm doing personally and as president of NPMA is getting out to several of these state associations. Like I have Ohio, Georgia, Alabama coming up, and I want to meet with all of our NPMA members and share the information about executive leadership, leader launch, the committees that you can serve on and grow in this organization, however you wish to. Either you want to serve on the board, you want to serve as a committee member, however you wish to volunteer. I just want to share that information with people. But also, we're working with a group called Manners, Minorities in Agriculture. And it's not just about race or gender. Where I come from is a rural area, so that's a minority area. So you want to share that information with people that maybe they did not think about a career path in structural pest control. So there's a junior manners group and a collegiate group. So the collegiate group, we've had representatives from various colleges that have attended PestWorld the past, I want to say 3 to 4 years. But now I'm reaching out to people that are in junior high school and high school. And we want to plant that seed early with the junior high schoolers about science, about sound science and how that impacts what we do. And also so they can already start thinking about a career in this industry. And then for the high schoolers, maybe they said, hey, I'm ready to enter the workforce. I'm not taking the college path, but those are great candidates for us. But if you don't know about us, how would you even apply for it? So I want to be visible. I want to be accessible so people can learn about this incredible industry because I didn't know about it when I was younger. And I really want to share that with people.
So tell me, we've sent for the last couple of years somebody from our company to the Professional Women in Pest Management, which the pictures, when it started, there were a few women in it. And now you probably can't, it's standing room only in those rooms. Tell us about what they're doing and, what their charter is.
PWIPM has grown tremendously. And you're right. It started off with no more than 15 people in a room. And now you cannot contain it. We need a patio, open space to get all of the women in. But last year, we focused on Steps of Hope. So each of the local chapters, we picked either human trafficking or some type of domestic violence issue or campaign in our states. And we worked with them and donated funds and made our members aware. That's the biggest part, is the awareness. There may be something going on. And how do you report it? How do you share what's going on to the local officials? So action can be taken, but still you want that person to remain safe. So educational pieces were put in place from our Steps of Hope. This year, I don't know what they're focused on. I do not know the focus for this year, but Mickey Thomas is doing a great job with PWIPM. So I need to loop in and find out from her exactly what they're focusing on this year.
Maybe we'll get her on.
Yes, Mickey is incredible.
Yeah. We have Emily on next week. So that's...
Oh, wow. That is a ton of energy right there.
Faye, I want to circle back to something that you said, because I thought it was, I think is such a great idea, which is you're talking about finding these minority communities and attracting them to the industry. I feel like personally that is such an untapped market because I'm from a really small town as well. I had no idea about the industry and the issues that I feel like a lot of us face, especially those that operate in metropolitan markets, is that, what our pay is typically for our technicians. It's very difficult to find labor, right? I mean, they can't live in the towns or, even some of the cities, especially if you're in these really large metropolitan markets. But these smaller towns, the unemployment is not as great. The cost of living is a lot more reasonable. Do you guys have a way, or have you mapped out kind of a strategy of how to get into these communities and raise awareness of our industry? Because we've talked about this a lot at Triangle about how do we get into these smaller communities and let people know that, we have a company, it's a great career, and, they'll have to travel a little bit to get in, but it beats kind of what's around there. When I say around there in these smaller towns, as far as opportunity, any thoughts there? Have you guys got that far yet? Or are you still just kind of looking at
No,
this is the goal?
I'm going to be honest. Junior Manners is the way to get in.
Uh-huh.
When I say Junior Manners, it's a program through your land grant university and minorities in agriculture. And each state has a chapter. And if you can get in with Junior Manners, because they pull students in from all of the rural communities, they usually have a meeting on the campus of the land grant college in that state, and they look for sponsorship. So that's how they get the students in. So your company could sponsor some of these students because they want them to be on campus. They want them to stay in the dorms. They want them to eat there. So they need money for this.
Right.
But if you can work through your Junior Manners program, that's the reach. That is the pathway to get to these students, because otherwise you're not going to find them. You can work with a counselor in the school, but you won't have that captive audience like you will through the Junior Manners program.
Gotcha.
Because not only will we have a booth to highlight Cook's Pest Control, we also get to come in and talk to the students, spend the evening with them. They have a ton of events. So you get to help them with their elevator pitches, with completing job applications. There is so much you can do if you just get in with the Junior Manners program and also the collegiate level as well. But we really need to start when they're in junior high school and plant that seed of this is a great industry to serve in. And if they're junior high, they can share that with someone else in their family.
Right. Right.
Nice.
So let's switch gears real quick. So you have a background in regulatory. I mean, obviously you were a state regulator and earlier in your career. Now you're not, but you are definitely part of regulatory issues in our industry. What do you feel like are the most kind of the most pressing issues facing our industry now in terms of regulatory?
Right now, it's rodenticides. EPA rodenticide registration review is priority number one for us right now. We received that early Christmas gift a couple of years ago where EPA put in their proposed interim decision that they were going to restrict all rodenticides. And we have been fighting for EPA to see that that is not the best path, not only for us, but for regulators. How can they possibly regulate the use if you restrict all of these products? Do they have a system in place, a database, an examination to test and track the CEUs for all of these applicators? So that is really an unreasonable ask. So EPA, we're still working with them. There's a meeting coming up, the second week in December in Alexandria, Virginia. So I plan on participating in that one. Again, we need to hear the voices from not only our association, but the American Association of Pesticide Educators. How would they conduct that training? We need to hear from the APCO, the ASPRO members. Again, how would they regulate that use? They don't have the staff. They don't have the resources to do that as well. So that's priority number one would be rodenticides. And again, I mentioned earlier, last week, the information came out from the biological evaluation. Go online, review that information. But NPMA is already putting in place some ways that they can train our members on reading the stuff for Bulletins Live too, and to make us more familiar with endangered species, because pretty soon we'll start seeing that information on the labels, where we'll have to go out to a website to see if there are any species in the area that would restrict how we make an application in that area.
Gotcha.
Boy. So we Marisa, our content writer, who we love, and she came up with some quick fire questions for us. We haven't done this before, have we, Donnie? But we probably ought to,
anything that has the word "quick" in it, I don't think it gets associated with us quite often. So right. No, we have not.
So let's go. So we're going to ask a couple of questions, and you give a quick. So first question. Okay. What's one piece of advice you would give somebody just starting out in the pest control industry?
Join your state association and NPMA. I mean, that's quick and easy. You want access to workshops. you want access to certification programs, you want to hear what's being proposed in this industry, and you have a voice. So you need to speak up at those meetings. And how could I possibly forget NPMA Legislative Day coming up? Don't forget that in March. So put that on your calendar. But
most important event in the whole year, I think. Yeah.
It is. I love PestWorld, but Ledge Day is incredible. March 9th through 11th in DC. Mark your calendars, because we do have a voice, and our elected officials need to know how we protect this industry, how we work hard. We make that economic impact.
Right.
Everything we do, that's it. But my one piece of advice: join your state association and national.
All right, Donnie, you take the second one.
Yeah, I mean, this one, this is such a great question, which is, who has been your biggest mentor or influence in your career?
Okay, I have two.
We'll
let you.
We'll let you.
Okay. Okay. All right. The first one is Dr. Don Rinchie from Texas AgriLife, so Texas A&M Extension. I met Don when I first became a member of the American Association of Pesticide Safety Educators, APSE. And you're right, that is a mouthful to say. It was my very first meeting. I didn't really know what to expect. I had my little program. It highlighted everything I wanted to attend. And he and this young lady by the name of Kay Harris, she was with the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. They saw me walking around, and they were like, "Hey, are you new?" I'm like, "Yep, I'm new from Alabama." Blah, blah, blah. And they just welcomed me. Just went over everything I had highlighted, explained, which track I probably should be on since I was new in my career. But they really invested in me. And at the end of that conference, Don didn't say, "I look forward to seeing you at the next meeting." He said, "I expect to see you at the next meeting." That statement did something to me. It was like, "Hey, you're important." It made me feel like I was important. My voice was important. This meeting was important. And I didn't need to miss anything that was being offered. If I wanted to know how certification and training worked, the relationship with EPA. So from Don, that's what I learned quickly, that you want to be involved in any association, get involved, grow in it. And as you can see, I became president of the American Association of Pesticide Safety Educators. So I owe Don that. Also, Don's journey is a bit like mine. He started off with a chemical company. He worked with the Texas Department of Agriculture, and now he's an extension person. So now he does training. So it's always fun to talk with him. He's always been that sounding board to bounce information off of. And this is the final thing about Don. When you're with a regulatory group, you don't usually generate money. And also my role now, Director of Governmental Affairs, you don't generate money. We spend money, but we don't generate money.
You're not a...
We're an expense. So you have to show your impact. And so that's what I do. I've learned from Don how to show that this year I conducted this training. We reviewed this. And so 0 fines. That's my savings. That's my impact. So Don, I am forever grateful for showing me how to develop that and just being just a great resource. The second person is Mr. Wayne Golden. He is an icon in this industry. He has paved the path for so many people. Either he hired you to be part of his team, could have fired you. I mean, he's fired a couple of people also, but he still mentored those people. So Wayne Golden has just been a resounding guide to me throughout my career since joining the structural side. And one time I was beginning to lose my focus, and he sat me down for lunch and we discussed it. And he just like, "Hey, you need to look at the bigger picture. Look at the bigger picture and have that gut check moment." That's his line, that gut check moment. So those two individuals mean the world to me, and they have been just the best mentors ever.
Any relationship?
We are not related. We have tried. We have family in similar areas, but we're not related.
That's funny. Yeah.
There you go. All right. So let's see.
We got time for one more.
One more.
Okay.
What's one industry trend that you're excited about?
Okay. I wouldn't call it a trend, but I'm excited about the emphasis on sustainability in our industry. Right now, that is it. We want to make sure we are positioned to be sustainable as it relates to regulatory issues, workforce, public perception. That's the goal. And earlier this year, NPMA held a sustainability summit in Tennessee. And from that meeting, now we have a task force. And the goal of that task force is to continue that initial discussion and build the momentum to develop resources and data and education for pest management individuals or people in our industry. It's just a huge momentum growth right now, and I'm excited about the possibility for sustainability.
That's terrific.
Good. Well, Faye, this has been fantastic. I mean, legitimately, and it's super excited to have and see what you do as the president of National Pest Management. Grateful to have you on board. Grateful that you came here and shared some of your thoughts. I think our listeners are going to be, for those that don't know you, I mean, I think this has been great. I've gotten to know you. This is the first time I'm technically not face to face, but excited to have you as president and to see what you do. Dan, any parting thoughts before we finish out here?
No, I really appreciate you being here, and best of luck in your new position. I mean, NPMA, I've been a member. I've been involved with it since probably 1991. So that's how old I am, right?
Well, I was
I'm
thinking
not going to share.
I thought Dan was going to go back to the 1800s, but we'll take 1981.
Right. When the wheel was square, So,
all righty. Well, Faye, thank you again.
Thanks so much.
Fantastic having you on
Thank you,
board.
guys. Thank you for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it today.
Yeah. Just a reminder, all the resources and topics that we talked about today are available on the podcast website. Just take a look at pmpindustryinsider.com. Take a look under show notes. And we always appreciate any ratings and reviews that you have to give us, as long as they're positive. If they're negative, we ask that you just pass that on to Dan. And with that, we'll see you all next time. Take care now.
Take care.
Bye-bye.